And the bells ring, the spirit of wind sings. All is full, from full comes full. Take full from full, what is left is full. All this is divine self. Take the world away. What is left is Brahman. All this is the divine self. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamodachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is September the 23rd, 2020, Wednesday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on the Yoga Vasistha. This is series 2018, class number 276. And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha Nirvana Prakarana Purvardha, section 22 continues. Kakabhushundi is talking about how he has passed duration of that covers ages and ages. You must know that this is an allegorical story. The actual point you are being led to understand is Kakabhushundi is Brahman. Anyone who becomes enlightened doesn't hold on to the previous identity. A reflected sun doesn't hold on to its identity as a real. Can hold on to identity as long as it's in the jar. But its real identity is the sun. And so if one particular jar, the reflected sun in a jar, we are to attain enlightenment. I am the sun. That reflected sun now can bring out allegorical description of himself, that he has seen countless pots and countless reflected suns, jivas, and they have gone through similar story in different ways. Similar story means everybody is born, everybody dies, similar. But there are countless stories. And he has gone on seeing all those things and remaining untouched, unaffected. It's just like the sun were to say, I have seen countless things going on the Earth planet since Earth planet was born. I am the father. But what sun has seen, it has seen itself. All illuminations are nothing but the sun. So I'm giving a really allegorical way to understand. The sun has no need to say all that. But as long as you are moving away from a delusional identity to real identity, your mind has to open up to this vast wonder, how great you are. You are no longer reflected sun in a little jar, communing with many other reflected suns, but you are the sun. Therefore, there is not a single illumination on the earth which is not essentially the sun. If that becomes your deep-rooted revelation, realization, then that's called mukti, moksha. And moksha doesn't depend upon whether you continue to exist on the earth. You do exist on the earth after liberation, led by prarabdha. But how long you live, all that has no meaning once you have attained enlightenment. Because you are internally as objective and distant from your body as the sun is from everything of this world. And yet sun is illumining everything. Continuing this, Kakbhushundi tells Vasistha, I remember 100 Kali Yugas. Memory is getting short. He should have remembered 1,000 Kali Yugas. I'm joking, but the idea is conveying to you that is allegorical. If he had said 1,000, wouldn't have made any mistake. And I have seen Lord Narayana incarnate as Buddha 100 times. Also showing, giving you the understanding that all the great ideals that now you encounter and you admire in your era, in your lifetime. Similar has been the experience since humanity existed on this earth. Similar setup. You didn't have all the external technology, etc. Things go on changing. But even the changes have come and gone. You never know how people, and even Even at this time, from a practical point of view, you never know in other stars and planets. The Earth is not the only one. And all that you know about Venus, etc., is only close by. There are countless. In other words, there are countless possibilities of souls existing in so many ways. And you never know that there may be souls living in a particular planet far away in the Milky Way, far advanced than all your human technology. I'm just giving you an idea to allow the mind to expand. I've seen Lord Shiva destroy the demon Tripura in every time cycle, 30 times to be exact. He has again and again destroyed the sacrifice of Daksha. The story repeats itself. The Vedas were edited again and again. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and other scriptures were written again and again by numerous Valmikis and Vyasas. Yoga Vasistha was presented by sage Vasistha to Rama. Kakushini telling him, you have presented Yoga Vasistha, but sage Vasistha to Rama in every great yuga. In my lifetime, Lord Vishnu has incarnated as Krishna 15 times. The 16th Krishna will be born in the house of Vasudeva during the end of Dwapar Yuga. Therefore, mind should understand. People go after so much history relating to a scripture. One point, who wrote it? Now people go into so much detail. Oh, this much is Uchidas. This couldn't be him. So separate it. Even though what you are reading is so wonderful. Who wrote Mahabharata? The traditional answer is Vyasa. But in Mahabharata, Vyasa himself is being described how he went through so many turmoils, etc. Oh, it is his biography. Common sense, even from ordinary point of view. Through passage of years, of hundreds of years, many additional contents are put into the ancient writings, and they are all attributed to the original author. And original author also was not all original. He himself was adopting what he had received from many others. In other words, spiritual teachings and literature is a evolving process, a river flowing on. So whom do you credit the whole river? That will depend. But all the sages being ultimately Brahman, you are not making any mistake if you have a deeper understanding. Mistake implies that every scripture, no matter how modified it may be through time, is giving you the same truth. Therefore, you have that statement, Nana Bhati Ram Avatara, Ramayana Shatkoti Apara. Every time Ramayana is read, devotee sings. Rama incarnated countless times. And in each time there is a story little different. Nana Bhati. And Ramayana, therefore, is not just one type, one volume of the scripture. Ramayana has been presented in millions of ways. And Ramayana is just another one sample of spiritual literature. I remember the great night of Brahma, the creator, when the world system was withdrawn and nature assumed the state of non-manifestation, non-manifestation, abhyakta. Prakriti became withdrawn. Even during that time, I continued to exist. That means if you are liberated, you are not dependent upon all that happens through Prakriti. The liberated one is identifying, his identity is Brahman. Still certain duration of time is used in the language for allegorical reason. Because if he were to start saying, oh, I remember, I am Brahman, then all the colorful stories will not follow. With my spiritual vision, I neither perceive the world as real nor as unreal. Why contradiction? Because if you are a sage, you have double consciousness. One consciousness matches up with everybody else. And so that world is real. Therefore, his activity is directed towards helping people. Sarva bhuti hite rata. Always busy to help people in different ways. If that was unreal, it wouldn't be possible. But at the same time, his intuitive understanding, where he is rooted, is like he is the sun, as if the sun playing the role of a reflected sun communicates with so many reflected suns, comforts them, and inspires them to become the sun. Now you can figure that out, how you want to understand it. So two stages are there. Brahman alone. If Brahman alone, the world is absolutely unreal. But the world is neither absolutely unreal nor absolutely real. Therefore, it is described anirvachaniya, indescribable. It is a result of Maya that the vision of the self has been refracted. Every individual experiences the world according to his mental set. The mindset of the individual is like an iPad. So therefore, countless experiences go on through countless personalities, but the self remains ever the same. Through the course of time, I have seen different ethical values and conducts adopted by people. Also, how you read the history, how once it was such a people were slaves, the tradition of maintaining slaves, and that was there was a tradition, there are times when women were not given any equal status with men. But this time, this progress that now you are experiencing on this earth, it has repeated itself countless times. Through the course of time, I have seen different ethical values and conducts. In some ages, sons acted as if they were superior to their parents because they were old. They couldn't walk straight. I'm so joking. So, and every woman was married to hundreds of husbands. At times, the characteristics and conducts of Satya Yuga manifested in Kali Yuga, while other times those of Kali Yuga manifested in Satya Yuga. That's why you find when you go to the scriptures about yugas, even in the highest Treta Yuga, the big demons existed. Satya Yuga also had its own demons stories. So they were all people are not 100% in a glorious state. Every yuga is described in that manner. What I am implying that no yuga was absolutely pure. No yuga can be absolutely pure. Thus, O sage, I recall creation and destruction occurring repeatedly like day and night in the life of Brahma. I recall countless marvels and mysteries of creation. Next section. The mystic method of mastering death. How to be free of death virus. Mrityu Bhai Ras. And that's the real virus that everyone must focus on negating that virus. Sage Vasistha asked, O sage, what should an individual do in order to free himself of the fear of death? What defects must he renounce, and what virtues should he cultivate in his personality so that death is rendered ineffective. Sage Bhushunda said, "O sage, you are the knower of all that is to be known. However, you are giving me the honor of expressing my views. I will reply to your question to the best of my ability." So now comes the topic. How to overcome the terror of death. Death does not wish to vanquish one who does not harbor the garland of subtle desires threaded by the string of attachment in his heart. It's a description of asakti. Internally in the heart there is attachment, dependence on the world around you. Your heart is not open to the reality, but your heart is in a state of limitation. If you are free of attachment and desires, asakti and kamana, if you are free of asakti, attachment implies holding on to the world of triad, seer, seen and sight. And desires. If you are free of these, death doesn't exist for you, because you are no longer identified with your body, your individual personality. All jivas and their individual personalities are like waves. An enlightened one is the ocean behind the waves. Not a single wave can create attachment for the ocean. The ocean includes all the waves, but ocean doesn't wake up to say, "Oh waves, how are you doing? Did you remember me?" I'm joking. The question doesn't arise. Death does not desire to touch one whose body tree is not consumed by the termites of worries. Body tree refers to your body-mind complex. And through your individual mind, you hold all the worries and anxieties of the world. Just like I said, it's an iPad, and you bring out countless stories, countless imaginations that crowd your mind with worry and anxiety. Death does not approach one whose body tree does not harbor the slow, simply shimmering fire of desires and cravings. If you are dominated by kama, desire, trishna, craving, then you are a prey to death. If you are free of desire and craving, you are liberated. So therefore, Buddha named liberation nirvana, which is extinguishing the flame of craving. If craving continues, your body identity ages. But your craving identity youthens. Krishnana jirna vayameva jirna. Craving does not become old, it youthens. But everyone goes on aging. And mind continues to be deluded, going after craving and craving sets of desires coming from a deeper source, which is known as craving. Death does not destroy one who is not bitten by the snake of greed, with its poison fangs of attachment and hatred. Attachment and hatred, raga dvesha. If you are gripped by asmita, egoism, along with raga dvesha, attachment and hatred, you live a greedy life. This point is brought out into the Upanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha ma gridha kasya svidhanam. God permeates all. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha. Therefore, enjoy, renouncing all names and forms. Names and forms are projections. And they are not your wealth. Names and forms is described as others' wealth, self and not self. The wealth of not self is spread out in the world, which become the source of desire for human mind. What all the three ashanas. Lokeshana, you want to have popularity. Putreshana, you want to have your children, grandchildren. Vitteshana, you want to have a lot of money. All these desires that have developed must realize nothing of that belongs to you. Not because they don't exist. Nothing exists. Nothing belongs to me. That's the reality. But if you continue to hold on to things of the world, you are acting with greed. That's the definition of greed given in a very advanced way. Going after something that is not yours. Names and forms, they belong to ignorance. One in whom the stream of discrimination is not dried up by the fire of anger is unaffected by death. Anger. If one is overcome by anger, all these are described. First describe Trishna, craving. Describe crave, greed, lobe. All these that are describing, if you have these, then you are subject to death. You have conquered them, you are deathless. Essentially, you are immortal Brahman. Now, one in whom the stream of discrimination, viveka buddhi, the discriminative intellect, is not dried up by the fire of anger. In other words, when you are angry, in that state, you cannot think rightly. You are insulting your reason, because due to anger you cannot really solve the problem, but become angrier because you are unable to solve it. One whose body is not churned by the Cupid god, like the churning of sesame seeds for extracting oil, is not affected by death. Now, this passionate desire that churns the mind. Death does not wish to touch one who has attained the realization of Brahman and whose mind is no longer fickle like a monkey in the forest. At this stage, let me remind you of Gita's statement, Dhyayato vishayan punsah sangasteshu pajayate. If you allow your mind unwittingly to go on thinking about objects and their pleasure associated with the objects, by constant thinking, that object becomes your reality, as if you cannot live without it. So it is that called sangha. Dhyayato vishayan, you develop sangha, a kind of connection. You are glued up with the object. Sangat sanjayate kama. Now there develops desire to stay related, stay connected with objects of pleasure. Objects imply all things that help you, that give you joy, near and dear ones, and all pleasures of the world. The message is not to become suddenly aloof from all, but develop subtle understanding of angles, changing the angle of your understanding. Objects are not your possession. They are not the source of your joy. The source of joy is your own soul. So by being attached to the objects, you are moving away from your inner joy. So, dhyayato vishayan punusa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama. And when you are dependent on objects, desires go on flourishing in your mind. I don't want to describe it. When you become attached to any person, your mind goes on working upon so many things, so many ideas. The whole world enters your mind. Let me conclude on that. Dhyayato vishyan sangasteshu sangat sanjayate kama. So that's called kama. Kamat krodho vijayate. Once you have kama-dominated mind, you cannot enjoy serenity. Because kama-dominated mind has two ways to go: frustration and elation. When things don't happen the way you want, you become frustrated. When you see things happen the way you want, or sometimes it happens more than you want, then immediately craving gets into your head. It should have been still more. Seems like a wit joking, but it's not so. So that state of mind that is overcome by frustration or elation is called anger. So you must realize anger here is not what popularly known as anger. It here means agitation. Mind becomes agitated. Agitated mind will not allow your reasoning, your intellect to guide the mind. Intellect becomes ineffective in playing its role. So if mind is not being led by your intellect, or your life is not guided by purity of intellect, then where are you going? Dhyayato vishayan punsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha means now the mind becomes so deluded. You don't have a rational setting, but irrational contents in your mind dominate your mind in such a way that you become helpless. And that brings about buddhi nash, as if your intellect becomes dead. And if that is so, your purushartha becomes completely neutralized. You can't do your self-effort for attaining enlightenment, for goal of life. So how did it begin? Dhyayato vishayan. Again and again thinking of objects. And that needs to be that addiction of the mind to constantly entertain thoughts of pleasures, eat, drink, be merry. That constantly entertaining that has become kind of an addiction, and it must be broken. Death does not touch. Death does not wish to touch one who has attained the realization of Brahman and whose mind is no longer fickle like a monkey in the forest. Mind is always compared to monkeys. O sage, for one who possesses a controlled mind, arising out of the realization of the self, there is neither grief nor elation, neither the rising of the mind nor the setting of the mind, neither sleep nor awakening. This allegorical term. It shouldn't be taken literally that you suddenly don't sleep at all. And if you are awake, you don't perceive things. The idea is that your understanding, your identity awareness, who am I, that remains constantly the same, in spite of all challenging situations or in spite of all varying situations occur in your life. So there is neither rise nor fall, neither sleep nor awakening, neither memory nor loss of it. Though performing his duties according to the scriptures, such a sage is beyond all karmic involvements. This is sthit prajna lakshanas, one who is rooted in spiritual knowledge, one who is enlightened. The enlightened one does do all karmas more effectively, more spontaneously, more artistically, more qualitatively than others. And in spite of all that, he is not creating karma for the soul. He is completely akarma. He does not come within the limits or within the law of karma. He is beyond giving, receiving, renouncing and accepting. All that goes on in life, but he doesn't create any karma. He has become like the sky. So many things happen in the sky. The sky remains untouched. He whose mind is mastered becomes a source of all divine qualities. He becomes the ocean unto which all rivers of joy flow to find their final consummation. This is a description of enlightenment. If you are enlightened, you have become like the ocean. Your experience cannot be described in familiar terms. Even when you are using this term infinity, you are using a concept in your mind. But that's the best you can do. Describing bliss of samadhi or bliss of enlightenment, all descriptions remain poor because it is a matter of experience. It's like the ocean. Therefore, one should direct his mind to Brahman, who is indestructible, ineffable. Now, let your intellect be focused on who am I, and this profound affirmation that I am not the body, mind, etc. I am Brahman, the Absolute. What is Brahman? Indestructible. All things are perishable. Brahman is imperishable, ineffable, devoid of the veil of ignorance and free of subtle desires. One should fix the mind to the self, or rather fix the mind on the self, where the demon of duality is dispelled and supreme bliss is realized. The demon of duality becomes daityas, and you are Advaita. Eat up the daityas. Eat up the duality which is demoniac, and let the truth shine. And with this I am going to conclude. Om, Om, Ram, 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 Ram. Om Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om. Prayer for shower of Karunamaya Ras grace over all. And may you all be blessed to be free of death virus, Mrityu virus, and be blessed with Shakti, Bhakti and Mukti. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukmuva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Hari Om Tat Sat.
Does anyone have any questions tonight? Then we conclude and rejoin on Friday at 7:30 for the Ramayana class.